Good morning and happy Friday, Stampers. Welcome to another Friday Live, where every Friday I go live with some crafting for you. Okay, I'm just updating my iPad so I can see your comments. Be sure to say hi if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay. Good morning, Kim. I always like to see who's watching. And feel free to comment, ask questions along the way. I try to keep up with the comments and respond as I get them. If not, I go back and read them and will comment on them afterwards. And for every comment, good morning, Mary Liz. Every comment, you get an entry to win this week's project. And if you share this video, you'll get 5 entries to win. So last week on my Friday Live, I created this beautiful card using some new In Colors and the New Wonders stamp set. So I've got everybody's name in here in a bin here who either commented or shared the video. And I will pop this in the mail for one lucky winner. And the winner is, oh, Mary Liz. Mary Liz is the winner. And I will see her next, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. So I will set that aside for her. All right, congratulations. Okay, we are going to get right to it. So I'm gonna flip the camera around and we will start with our crafting. So just give me a second. Good morning, Shirley. There we go, okay. Okay, let's just make sure that we're all lined up here. Turn on my light so we have fewer shadows. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I contemplated doing a project where I hadn't planned live with you today, but I don't have enough nerve to do that just yet, because sometimes it can take me a really long time to create a card. So I had an idea in my head and I thought, oh, I should just leave it and I should just do it live and see how it goes. But I decided not to. I had a few minutes this morning and the card worked out. So I do have a sample to show you. One of these days I will just wing it and create a card live. This is the project that we're creating today. So we're using some butterflies and some shimmery white cardstock. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's got a watercolored background in behind there. So we're gonna create this soft and shimmery card this morning. So I'm gonna start with a piece of shimmery white cardstock. You guys probably can't see how shimmery that is, but I love our shimmery white cardstock. And I'm going to use the Springtime Impressions dies. I'm gonna use this butterfly die and I'm gonna cut it out just from the center of this DSP. So did I say the size? I can't remember. 2 3/4 by 5 1/2. I'm gonna grab my die cutting machine. I know it's a very safe place, Mary Liz, but and you know what? I'm not worried about, you know, things not working out or whatever, or getting criticized or whatever. I mean, I know that everybody is wonderful and supportive. My concern is it could take a long time, because there have been times where I have an idea in my head and I can't get it to work, and it will take me an hour and a half to make one card. And I know nobody has time for that. So that was really my main concern, is how long it would take if I didn't pre-design it. Okay, so I'm running this through twice just because this is a little bit more of a detailed die. We'll move our big shot out of the way. And then I'm gonna bring in my die brush. Just pop out those little pieces. We don't need those little pieces. And most of them have come out. Set that aside. Just pop out the rest of these pieces. And we are gonna use both this piece and the negative piece for this card. You know me and how I love to try to use everything. Okay, get those out of the way. All right, so now I'm going to take another piece of shimmery white cardstock, and it's slightly smaller than this piece. So it measures 2.5 by 5.5 inches. I will likely trim down the length, maybe not, but I am going to create my watercolor background on here. And I chose to do shimmery white because you could use watercolor paper for this as well. Whisper white, if you're doing a watercolor wash kind of background, or anything with lots of moisture, our regular Whisper white doesn't work as well, okay? It'll start to pill once it gets a little bit more water added to it, and you don't want that. So shimmery white or watercolor paper is best for this kind of technique. Good morning, Lisa from Wisconsin. Okay, so I've got two colors here. I've got Blushing Bride and Rococo Rose. And I'm just going to I've got some Blushing Bride still left in there. I'm going to add some Rococo Rose. Oh my goodness. Oh, there we go. Just a little drop of ink refill in here. If you don't have the ink refills, you can also squeeze the ink pads and it transfers ink to the lid as well. Okay, and I've got my aqua painter. I'm going to squeeze the aqua painter. Normally, if you're coloring in, good morning, Reg. If you're coloring in an image, normally you don't want to squeeze your aqua painter because then it adds too much moisture and you have a little bit less control. But for creating a background like this, the more moisture you have, the better it is. So then I'm just going to start splotching, for the lack of a better word. And then I'll dip it in my Rococo Rose and again squeeze it to add a bit of moisture. And you know what, for this I'm really not too concerned with how it looks because most of it is going to be covered over. You're not going to see too much of that detail. That's more Blushing Bride. The Blushing Bride actually has a bit more of an orange hue than I thought it would. Okay, so I'm adding just enough because I want to make sure that everywhere underneath here is going to be covered. Oh, I love the look of that. Let's just add a little bit more up here. A little bit more down here. Okay. I think that should be good. Oh, maybe just a touch more up here. Okay, that looks good. All right, so I'm gonna close up my ink pads. And then I'm just gonna set that aside, and while it dries, I'm gonna do my greeting. Now, I chose my greeting from this stamp set here, Butterfly Wishes, because you can never have enough butterflies. I love butterflies. But what I wanted I wanted a birthday greeting, but I wanted it all in one line. And I obviously need some more birthday greeting stamp sets because I was looking through and I mean, I could find some where it was the two words separately, but it wasn't quite the font that I was looking for. So I need a little bit more variety, but I thought that this would work well. So Birthday Wishes, except it's on two lines. So I want it on one line. So I'm gonna show you my solution for that. And the Stamparatus, it will come in handy for this. Okay, so I've got my greeting here. So it says Birthday Wishes. Good morning, Barb. And I've got a strip of shimmery white cardstock. So this was just left over from when I cut my pieces. I'm gonna stick it on here, use the magnet to hold it in place. Then I'm gonna take my greeting and I'm going to center, center it up and down. It doesn't matter this way. I specifically cut a longer piece. I think that looks good. Oh, I just moved it. Okay, I think that's good. I'm gonna close it. And then what I always do is I have my imaging sheet that's left over from when we had our Stamp-A-Majig, which was our other stamp positioning tool. So I use that to stamp on it first to see if it's straight. If you don't have the Stamp-A-Majig or an imaging sheet, you can use any heavier piece of plastic. You could even use a piece of vellum. Just anything that you can see through will work for this, okay? And because I just want the word birthday inked, I'm going to use my black Stampin' Write marker, and I'm just going to ink up the word birthday. Okay, now I'm gonna stamp it on my imaging sheet, and that will allow me to see how it's positioned, if it's straight, if it's centered. You know what, I want it up a little bit. Normally I wouldn't move my cardstock. Normally I would move the stamp, but we're just gonna move the cardstock down just a smidge. Okay, I'm happier with that. All right, okay, so now I'm gonna re-ink it. And stamp the birthday. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna clean all this. So I'll wipe off my imaging sheet, clean my stamp. Okay, and then before I do anything else, I want to bring in a scrap piece of paper, and I wanna make sure that that stamp is really clean. So I'm going to stamp it on scrap paper to make sure there's no, what I call shadowing. Because when I go to re-ink or go to ink up my wishes, I don't want there to be any shadowing or haloing of the word birthday above it. So now it looks good. So now I'm gonna take it off of this and I'm gonna position it beside my birthday and line it up where I think it needs to be. Again, bring in my imaging sheet. This time I'm going to ink up just the word wishes. Stamp it down. Okay, and it needs to be just a little bit higher. So again, I am going to move my cardstock down just a little bit. You can take the stamp off and move it. Still just a little bit more. I just find once your stamp is inked, it's sometimes easier to move your cardstock. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now I'll re-ink my wishes. And stamp that. Oh, see, and look, I got some ghosting up at the top. Actually, I don't think it's ghosting. I think I just wasn't careful. Okay, so let's flip it over. Okay, now let's see where this needs to be. We need to move this up. See, this is one of the hazards of moving your cardstock instead of the stamp. Now I need to reposition this so that I'm happy with it. Okay, and it doesn't matter which word you start with. Okay, that's good. Let's clean this first. And this time I'll be more careful when I ink up my word. Let's just make sure we've got no shadowing. Okay, let's try this again. I'm gonna move this at an angle here. It's easier for me to see. Okay, so we'll stamp wishes. And then we'll give it a clean. And then make sure that there's no ghosting. So see how I had some, you could see the W there? So that's why you want to do that. Okay, so I'll remove it. Position the birthday where I think it needs to be. I think that looks straight. Bring in my imaging sheet again. And again, I'm just gonna go, actually, do it this way. Okay. And that is not straight. So sometimes this takes a bit of time to figure out. You probably could just ink up each word and just wing it, and it would probably be faster. Well, especially when you have to do it more than one time. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's re-ink this. So what does everybody have planned for this weekend? Anything fun? There we go. Okay, that's better. Okay, let's give this a clean. And that. And we can set this stuff aside. Okay. All right, so we've got the pieces that we need for our card here. Just pulling out all the rest of the pieces that I need. Okay, so our card base is Blushing Bride. Lisa's watching her 5-year-old granddaughter. Does she like to craft, Lisa? Barb's going to the farmer's markets. I have not been to the farmer's markets yet. I need to make plans to do that. Okay, so our card base is Blushing Bride, 5.5 inches by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So it's just a standard size card base. Mary Liz is having lunch with her son to plan their holiday catalog pre-order. That will be fun. Okay, so that's our card base. I've got 2 pieces of Rococo Rose, which is one of our new in colors. Both of these are 1/2 inch by 5.5 inches. And let me think here. And then I've got some, it's not called Dazzling Diamonds glimmer paper anymore. It's something else. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the sparkly glimmer paper that's kind of a white color. Lisa says she loves crafting. She has her own box of paper, markers, glue, and all the things to make her own projects. That's awesome. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of this, and this is going to get popped onto here. Boy, I like the look of that. Dimensionals, here we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna add a few just around where the butterfly is going to be. Actually, you know what? And then I'll add them around the corners as well. I just won't take the adhesive. Actually, no, I'll wait. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself. Does anybody else do that when they craft? Okay, so that's the reason why I cut that a little bit shorter, was I knew that sometimes it's not completely even and you might have to put it on crooked. Actually, it looks pretty straight. It does extend a little bit past the edge here. I'm just gonna trim that. Just so it doesn't pop out. Always good, I'm glad I'm in good company. Okay, and then I'm going to use some dimensionals and just put dimensionals just down the center of the butterfly's body, just so it's popped up as well. And that's gonna get lined up right in here, like that. Oops. Okay, so now I am going to, this is gonna get attached to here, but first we wanna stick our strips on. So I'm just gonna add a bit of adhesive here and put it, I don't know, it's about 1/2 inch from the top. That looks straight. And then I'll add a bit of adhesive to this one and figure out where this needs to be positioned. I think it's right about there, but I'm not going to push too hard until I can see. Yep, that looks about right. Is it straight? I think so. Okay, so I've got my strips, and now I am going to put some adhesive on the back of this. This is going to get stuck down so that I've got an even border of that Rococo Rose above and below. And we need some dimensionals on here because that's just too flappy for me. Okay, so I'm just going to do that on all 4 corners. It is pretty, isn't it? It's so soft. I wish you guys could see the sparkle. Like cards always look so much better in person than they do on a video or even in a photo. Okay, there we go. So you can see that watercolor background in behind, and I'm just going to curl up the wings of the butterfly just a bit to give it more dimension. And now let's work on our greeting. So I've got my greeting that I stamped using the Stamparatus, and I'm gonna angle cut it on both sides and add a bit of adhesive in behind. And what I've done is I have cut the in color scalloped ribbon. So this is the Rococo Rose scalloped ribbon. I've cut it in half, which I love to do with this ribbon because this scallop border is just beautiful. Whenever you need just a little something, it's perfect. So it adds just that pop of color underneath the greeting. Let's make it so it's straight here. And then I will match the angle on both sides. It's a great way to stretch your ribbon as well. The other thing I could have done is I could have used this ribbon instead of the cardstock above and below on here. I thought of that, that was an afterthought. Okay, and now I'm going to stick my glimmer paper. This piece measures, it's maybe 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch. I'm going to add that in behind, and then mimic that angle cut as well. That is not straight. Okay, because you can never have too much glimmer, right? I mean, sure, I use shimmer white cardstock, but even just that little bit of sparkle in there just makes it even more glimmery. What's going on with this dimensional here? Okay, let's pick a different one. Okay, Thank you, Reg. So I just wanted to remind you guys while I'm working on this that there is still a few days left in the month that you can take advantage of our bonus days. So what bonus days are is when you spend $60, when you purchase $60 in product, you get a $6 coupon code that you can redeem next month, so the month of August. And there are no limits to the number of host or coupon codes that you can receive, and there's no limits to redeem them. So for example, if you qualified for two coupon codes this month, you can use them both on one order next month, okay? So there's still time for you to take advantage of that. You can shop online here. If you use this host code, if your order is $50 or more, which you'll want to make it 60, you get entered to my $50 holiday catalog shopping spree. And I will also send you a package of the pretty peacock rhinestones. I love the colors in those rhinestones. Okay, so now I'm using my Take Your Pick tool and I'm going to pick out some sequins. So this is the woven, what is it called? Woven Threads Sequence Assortment. And these are all the in colors. I love, love, love. I love sequins. So I'm just going to pick the ones that I want. And my Take Your Pick tool just helps picking out exactly which one I want. So I don't have to use my big fat fingers and try to dig in there and pick out what I want. So I'm using a combination of the pink ones, which are Rococo Rose, and then I'm using some of the purple posy ones as well, because those almost look white. They're almost like it's almost like they're iridescent. Got quite a bit of goop coming out here. Okay, and I want one more purple posy one. Okay, so that's where I want to position them. Now I'll bring in my Tombow, just add a dot of Tombow underneath. Okay, and then the other thing I did was I was going to leave the card as is, but I just felt that it needed a little something else. I didn't like how the pink above and below just looked so plain. So I will share what I did. Just a second, just finished putting these on. I decided to do something that I haven't done in quite a while. And it was just the perfect little addition. Just what it needed to finish off the card. Okay, so we've got our sequins on there. Let's cover those up so I don't spill them. Okay, so what I did was I ended up taking my Take Your Pick tool and I used the paper piercer and I pierced along the top. Okay, so I've got my piercing mat. I'm gonna open the card and let's put it this way. I'm just gonna eyeball it and poke holes all the way across. Now years ago, we used to have a template that you can use. Some of you may still have that, but I'm just going to eyeball it, try to space them as evenly as I can. Just going all the way across, and it's just a nice little addition. You could do it along the bottom as well. I just ended up doing it along the top because I found that that was enough. And then after this, we'll work on the inside of the card, which I kept pretty simple, but it's always nice to do something on the inside. And then of course, stamp our envelope to match. Okay, there we go. So see how that just adds just a little something to it? Okay, so now I've got a piece of just regular Whisper white cardstock. Mary Liz says she'd have to place a ruler beside it, but she likes the idea. Okay, So I've got a piece of Whisper white cardstock that measures 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to use my Memento ink, and I've got the greeting from the Butterfly Wishes stamp set that says, "Love to celebrate you." Just ink that up. I'm going to stamp that in the center. And then I've got one of the butterfly images from the same stamp set. I'm going to use Rococo Rose and ink it up. My Rococo Rose is very juicy. And then stamp that down. Let's add another one in the corner. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same on the envelope. So I've got just a regular medium white envelope. And I'll just stamp it in the corner. And we are done. Well, I guess we have to add this to the inside. So let's add a bit of adhesive. Stick it on the inside and we're done. I'll hold it up so that hopefully you guys can see the shimmer. There we go. Can you guys see that shimmer? There's a bit of a delay. Just waiting. I don't know that you'll be able to see it. Yeah, I don't think so. But trust me, it's beautiful. It's very shimmery. And remember that you can win this card. Comment below and you'll get entered. Next week I'll draw for the prize or to mail this out to somebody. One lucky winner. Yeah, if you have any questions, just pop them below. I hope you enjoyed today's Friday Live, and I'll see you next week. I think next week we might go back and do a fun fold. I've got one in mind that I want to try. So hopefully I'll see you next week, and have a wonderful weekend. Hope you get a chance to get crafty. Take care.